My name is Shanice Williams, and I'm about to tell you how my mama protected me from beyond the grave, and how the man I loved for 15 years showed me exactly who he really was on the worst day of my life. It started 2 days after we buried my mama. 2 days. I was still wearing black, still crying myself to sleep every night, still finding her reading glasses in random places around my house and breaking down all over again. My mama, Gloria Patterson, had been my everything. She raised me by herself after my daddy passed when I was 7. She worked 2 jobs, sometimes 3, to make sure I had everything I needed. She put me through college. She was at my wedding, holding my hand and smiling, even though something in her eyes told me she had doubts about Marcus. I should have listened to that look. But I was young and in love. And Marcus was charming and handsome and said all the right things. We got married when I was 23, and for the first few years, things were good. Or at least I thought they were good. Marcus worked in sales, and I was a teacher at the local elementary school. We had a nice little house, a decent car, and we were building a life together. My mama never said anything negative about Marcus directly. She was too classy for that. But there were little moments. Times when she'd look at him with this expression I couldn't quite read. Times when she'd pull me aside and ask, "Baby, are you happy? Really happy?" And I'd always say yes because I thought I was. Looking back now, I realize my mama saw things I was too blind to see. Marcus had started changing about 5 years into our marriage. He became obsessed with money, with status, with what other people had. He'd drive through the rich neighborhoods and talk about when we make it big and when we get our piece of the pie. He started making comments about how teaching didn't pay enough, about how my mama should have invested better, about how we deserved more than what we had. I ignored the red flags because I loved him, because I thought marriage meant working through the rough patches, because my mama raised me to be loyal and committed. 3 months before my mama passed, she was diagnosed with stage 4 pancreatic cancer. It came out of nowhere and moved fast. Too fast. One day she was healthy and strong, cooking Sunday dinner and singing in the church choir. The next day she was in the hospital being told she had maybe 6 months to live. She made it 4. Those 4 months were the hardest of my life. But they were also precious. I took a leave of absence from work to take care of her. I moved into her house so I could be there around the clock. Marcus complained about it, said I was neglecting our marriage, said he needed me at home. But my mama needed me more, and for once in my life, I put my foot down. During those 4 months, my mama and I talked about everything. Our memories, our regrets, our hopes. She told me stories about my daddy that she'd never shared before. She told me about her own dreams and disappointments. And she told me, over and over again, that she loved me and wanted me to be happy. "Baby," she said to me one night about 2 weeks before she passed, "I need you to promise me something." "Anything, Mama," I said, holding her frail hand. "Promise me you'll be strong. Promise me you'll stand up for yourself, no matter what. Promise me you won't let anybody make you feel small or unworthy." I didn't understand why she was being so intense about it. I promised anyway. "And baby," she continued, her voice barely a whisper, "promise me you'll trust Attorney Bernard Jackson. He's been my lawyer for 20 years, and he's a good man. When the time comes, you listen to him. You hear me?" "I hear you, Mama." She squeezed my hand. "Some people show you who they really are when they think they have something to gain. Watch for that, baby. Watch for it." At the time, I thought she was just being protective. Maybe a little paranoid because of the medication. I had no idea she was trying to warn me. My mama passed on a Tuesday morning in October. I was holding her hand. Marcus was at work. He said he couldn't take any more time off, that he'd already missed too much. My best friend Keisha was there, though, and so was Pastor Williams from our church. Mama went peacefully, with me whispering, "I love you," over and over until she took her last breath. The funeral was beautiful. The whole church came out. Mama had touched so many lives, helped so many people. The choir sang her favorite hymns. People stood up and shared stories about how Gloria Patterson had made a difference in their lives. I cried through the whole service, and Marcus sat next to me holding my hand, acting like the supportive husband. I should have known something was wrong when he kept asking about the will. "Did your mama leave any paperwork?" he asked the night before the funeral. "Marcus, I just lost my mama. Can we not talk about this right now?" "I'm just trying to help, baby. We need to know what we're dealing with. Did she have any assets, property, savings?" I knew my mama owned her house outright. She'd paid it off years ago, and I knew she had some savings because she'd always been careful with money. But I didn't know the details, and honestly, I didn't care. I just wanted my mama back. The day after the funeral, I was at home in my pajamas, surrounded by sympathy cards and casserole dishes from church members, when Marcus came into the bedroom and sat down next to me. "Shanice," he said, "we need to talk." I looked up at him with swollen eyes. I'd been crying all morning. "What is it?" He took a deep breath, and for a split second, I saw something in his face that scared me. Something cold and calculated. "I think we need to separate," he said. The words didn't make sense at first. I just stared at him. "What?" "I've been thinking about this for a while now. We've grown apart. You've been distant. I think we need some time apart to figure out if this marriage is really working." My whole body went numb. "Marcus, my mama just died. She died yesterday. We buried her today. And you want to talk about separating?" "I know the timing isn't great, but I've been holding this in for months. I can't do it anymore." "You've been holding it in?" My voice was rising now. "While I was taking care of my dying mother, you were planning to leave me?" "Don't make this dramatic, Shanice. We both know this marriage has been dead for years." I couldn't believe what I was hearing. This man I'd loved for 15 years was sitting in our bedroom on the day after my mama's funeral, telling me he wanted out. "Get out," I whispered. "What?" "Get out!" I screamed at this time. "Get out of this room! Get out of my sight!" He stood up slowly, and that's when I saw it again. That cold look. "Fine, but we're going to have to deal with this eventually. And Shanice, you should probably talk to a lawyer too." He walked out, and I collapsed on the bed, sobbing so hard I thought I might die from the pain of it all. Keisha came over an hour later. She'd been checking on me every day since Mama passed. When she walked in and saw me on the floor, still in my funeral dress, crying hysterically, she knew something bad had happened. "Shanice, what's wrong? What happened?" I could barely get the words out. "He wants to leave me. Marcus wants to leave me. My mama is gone and now he's leaving me too." Keisha held me while I cried. "That man is a fool," she kept saying. "A damn fool." That night, I barely slept. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw my mama's face, heard her voice telling me to be strong. But I didn't feel strong. I felt broken. The next morning, Marcus came back. I heard him moving around in the living room, and when I came out, he was sitting at the kitchen table with a folder in front of him. "What's that?" I asked. "Divorce papers," he said calmly, like he was discussing the weather. "I already filed. You just need to sign them." I felt like I'd been slapped. "You already filed? Marcus, Mama died 2 days ago. 2 days. I know you're emotional right now, but this is for the best. Trust me." He slid the papers across the table. "My lawyer says if we do this amicably, it'll be quick and clean. We can split everything 50-50, sell the house, move on with our lives." 50-50? I was trying to process what was happening. "This is about money. This is about my mama's inheritance, isn't it?" He had the audacity to look offended. "Why would you say that?" "Because you're talking about splitting everything. Because you waited until right after she died to do this." "Shanice, community property law is clear. Whatever assets come into the marriage get split equally. I'm just trying to be fair." Fair. He thought he was being fair by ambushing me with divorce papers while I was grieving my mama. "I need you to leave," I said quietly. "We live here together." I said leave, Marcus. Go stay with your brother. Go to a hotel. I don't care. But I can't look at you right now." He stood up, but before he left, he said something that made my blood run cold. "You should know that I talked to a lawyer about your mama's estate. If she left you anything, it's technically marital property since we're still married. So you might want to think about signing those papers sooner rather than later. The longer you drag this out, the messier it gets." He left, and I sat at that kitchen table staring at those divorce papers for an hour straight. Then I remembered what my mama said. Trust attorney Bernard Jackson. I called his office that afternoon. The receptionist said he'd been expecting my call and could see me the next day. That surprised me. How did he know I would call? Attorney Bernard Jackson's office was in a nice building downtown. I'd met him a few times over the years, usually when Mama needed to update her will or handle some legal paperwork. He was an older black man, maybe in his late 60s with gray hair and kind eyes. He'd been practicing law since before I was born, and my mama trusted him completely. When I walked into his office the next day, he stood up and gave me a hug. "Shanice, honey, I'm so sorry about Gloria. Your mama was a remarkable woman." "Thank you," I said, my voice shaky. He gestured for me to sit down, and I noticed he had several folders on his desk. "I know you're going through a difficult time, so I'll try to make this as straightforward as possible. Your mama came to see me about 6 months ago to update her will and set up some trusts." 6 months ago? But she wasn't diagnosed until 3 months ago. "That's true. But your mama was always careful about planning ahead. She wanted to make sure everything was in order, just in case." He opened one of the folders. "Now, I need to ask you something, and I need you to be honest with me. Has Marcus mentioned the inheritance?" My stomach dropped. "How did you know?" Attorney Jackson's expression turned serious. "Because Gloria predicted he would. In fact, she was so sure he would file for divorce after her passing that she took very specific steps to protect you." "What are you talking about?" He pulled out a document and slid it across the desk. "Shanice, your mama left you everything. The house, which is worth about $400,000. Her savings accounts, which total about $230,000. Her life insurance policy, which is another $500,000. And some investment accounts that total around $600,000. I stared at him in shock. That's almost $2 million. $1,730,000 to be exact. My mind was reeling. I knew Mama had money saved, but I had no idea it was this much. How? How did she have this much? Your mama was brilliant with money, Shanice. She invested wisely, she lived below her means, and she had a good life insurance policy from her years working at the hospital. She built this wealth over 40 years, and she wanted you to have it. But Marcus said it would be community property. He said we'd have to split it. Attorney Jackson smiled, and it was the kind of smile that said he knew something Marcus didn't. "That's what your husband thinks. But your mama made sure that wouldn't happen. She set up something called an inheritance protection trust. Every single penny she left you is in that trust, and according to the terms she specified, that money is yours and yours alone. It can never be considered community property. It can never be touched in a divorce. It's protected." I couldn't breathe. She knew he would do this. Your mama was a very perceptive woman. She never said anything directly negative about Marcus to me. But about a year ago, she came in and asked me about protecting inheritance from divorce. She said she had a feeling, that's all. Just a feeling. And she wanted to make sure that if anything ever happened to her, you would be taken care of, no matter what. Tears were streaming down my face. "So Marcus can't get any of it?" "Not a penny. In fact, there's more." He pulled out another document. "Your mama also left a letter for you. She instructed me to give it to you after I explained the trust. She said you'd understand everything once you read it." He handed me an envelope with my name written in my mama's handwriting. My hands were shaking as I opened it. The letter read, "My dearest Shanice, if you're reading this, then I'm gone, and I'm guessing Marcus has shown his true colors. Baby, I'm so sorry you had to find out this way, But I need you to know something. I saw the change in him years ago. I saw how he looked at money, how he talked about wealth, how he seemed more interested in what you could give him than who you are as a person. I never said anything because I hoped I was wrong. I hoped he would prove me wrong. I hoped he loved you the way you deserved to be loved. But a mama knows. A mama always knows. I spent the last year making sure every penny I worked for would go to you and only you. Not because I'm trying to control you from beyond the grave, but because I want you to have freedom. Freedom to leave if you need to. Freedom to start over if you want to. Freedom to build the life you deserve. The money in that trust is yours. Use it wisely. Use it to take care of yourself. And baby, please, please don't let anyone make you feel guilty for protecting yourself. You are strong. You are smart. You are worthy of real love, not the kind of love that comes with conditions and calculations. Stand tall, baby girl. I'm always with you. All my love, Mama. I couldn't stop crying. Attorney Jackson handed me a box of tissues and gave me a moment to compose myself. There's one more thing, he said gently. Your mama left instructions that if Marcus filed for divorce within the first year after her passing, I was to immediately notify you and help you with your divorce proceedings. She even set aside $50,000 specifically for your legal fees. She thought of everything, Shanice. I looked up at him through my tears. So what do I do now? Now? Attorney Jackson leaned back in his chair. Now we let Marcus think he's winning. We let him think you're going to sign those papers and split everything with him. And when he gets comfortable, when he thinks he's about to get his hands on $1 million. He paused, and his smile grew wider. That's when we show him exactly what Gloria Patterson did to protect her daughter. For the first time since my mama died, I felt something other than grief. I felt hope. And somewhere deep inside, I felt the beginning of something else, too. Justice. I left Attorney Jackson's office that day with a plan. It wasn't a complicated plan, but it required something I wasn't sure I had in me. It required me to lie, to pretend, to let Marcus think he was getting exactly what he wanted while I prepared to pull the rug out from under him. The key is patience, Attorney Jackson had told me. Let him show his hand completely. Let him reveal exactly who he is, and document everything. Every conversation, every demand, every ugly moment. Because when we get to court, I want the judge to see the real Marcus Williams. I drove home slowly that day, my mama's letter folded carefully in my purse. I must have read it 10 times already, and each time I felt a little stronger. My mama had known. She'd seen through Marcus when I was too in love to see it myself, and she'd protected me the only way she could. When I got home, Marcus's car was in the driveway. My heart started pounding. I had to act normal. I had to pretend I didn't know about the trust, didn't know that every single penny was protected from him. I walked in to find him in the living room watching television like nothing had happened, like he hadn't just destroyed our marriage while I was grieving. Hey, he said casually. Did you think about what I said? About the papers? I took a deep breath and sat down across from him. This was it. Time to perform. I talked to a lawyer today. His eyes lit up. I could see the greed in them now that I knew what to look for. Yeah? What did they say? They said we should probably go through with the divorce. That fighting it would just make things more expensive and complicated. He tried to hide his smile, but I saw it. That's smart, Shanice. That's really mature of you. I know this is hard, but it's the right thing. The right thing. This man had the nerve to talk about what was right. The lawyer also told me about my mama's estate, I continued, watching his face carefully. It's more than I thought. A lot more. How much more? He was leaning forward now, trying to seem casual, but failing. Close to $2 million. I watched his whole body language change. His eyes went wide, his breathing got faster, and for just a second, he couldn't hide the pure joy on his face. $2 million. That's what our 15-year marriage was worth to him. Actually, half of $2 million. $1 million. "Wow," he said, trying to sound sympathetic. "Your mama did well for herself. That's good, baby. That's really good. At least something positive came out of all this." Baby. He was calling me baby again, like he hadn't just asked for a divorce 2 days after my mama's funeral. "Yeah," I said quietly. "The lawyer said it'll take a few weeks to process everything. Probate and all that." Of course. These things take time. "And Shanice?" He moved closer to me on the couch. "I want you to know that even though we're getting divorced, I still care about you. We can still be civil about this. We can still be fair." Fair. There was that word again. "I should probably move back in," he continued, "just until we sort everything out. It doesn't make sense for me to pay for a hotel when we're both adults who can handle this maturely." Every part of me wanted to scream at him to get out. But I remembered what Attorney Jackson said. Document everything. Let him show who he really is. "Okay," I said. "You can stay in the guest room." Over the next 2 weeks, I watched Marcus transform into someone I didn't recognize. Or maybe I was finally seeing who he'd always been. He started asking questions about the inheritance constantly. When would the money be available? What accounts was it in? Had I thought about how we'd split it? He even suggested we should sell my mama's house immediately while the market is hot and split the proceeds. My mama's house. The house where I grew up. The house where she took her last breath. And he wanted to sell it like it was just another asset to be divided. Keisha came over almost every day. She could see what was happening, and it made her furious. "Girl, I don't know how you're staying so calm," she said one afternoon while we were sitting in my mama's kitchen. I'd started spending more time at Mama's house, sorting through her things. It was painful, but it was also peaceful. Marcus never came with me. He said it was too depressing. "I'm not calm," I told her. "I'm just waiting." Waiting for what? I wanted to tell her about the trust, about my mama's plan, but Attorney Jackson had advised me to keep it quiet. The fewer people who knew, the better. "Just waiting for the right time," I said. Keisha looked at me with her knowing eyes. She'd been my best friend since high school. We'd been through everything together. "Shanice Williams, you're up to something." I smiled a little. "Maybe." "Well, whatever it is, I hope it involves making Marcus suffer. That man deserves everything that's coming to him." She had no idea how right she was. That Sunday, I went to church like I'd been doing every week since I was a child. Pastor Williams had known me and my mama for years. After the service, he pulled me aside. "Sister Shanice, how are you holding up?" "I'm managing, Pastor." He looked at me with concern. "I heard about you and Marcus. I'm sorry to hear that." Word traveled fast in our church community. "Thank you, Pastor." "If you ever need to talk, my door is always open. And if you need anything at all, you let me know. Your mama was a pillar of this church, and we take care of our own." His words brought tears to my eyes. This was the community my mama had built. These were the people who really cared about me, not because of what I had, but because of who I was. After church, several other members came up to me with similar offers of support. Sister Martha invited me to dinner. Brother Thompson offered to help with anything I needed at my mama's house. Sister Jenkins just hugged me and whispered, "Stay strong, baby. God's got you." When I got home, Marcus was on his phone, laughing and talking loud. I heard him say something about hitting the jackpot before he noticed me and quickly ended the call. "Who was that?" I asked. "Just my brother. Nothing important." He stood up and stretched. "Listen, I've been thinking. Once the money comes through, maybe we should each get our own lawyers to make sure everything is handled properly. No offense to your lawyer, but I think we both need independent representation." Translation: he wanted to make sure he got every penny he thought he was entitled to. "That makes sense," I said, even though it made me sick. "Good. I already talked to someone. Guy my brother recommended. He specializes in high-asset divorces." He said it so casually, like he'd been planning this for months, which he probably had. That night, I called Attorney Jackson from my car, parked down the street from my house. He's already got a divorce lawyer, I told him. Someone who specializes in high-asset divorces. Good, Attorney Jackson said calmly. Let him spend his money on fancy lawyers. It won't matter. The trust is ironclad, Shanice. I've been doing this for 40 years, and I've never seen a more perfectly structured inheritance protection. Your mama thought of every possible angle. When do we tell him? Soon. I'm waiting for one more thing. Your mama instructed me to wait until Marcus made a specific demand. She said I'd know it when I heard it. What kind of demand? She said he'd eventually ask you to give him money before the divorce was final. He'd come up with some excuse about needing it now, about not wanting to wait. She said when he did that, that's when we'd know for sure who he really was. I thought about that conversation for days. What was my mama waiting for? What final test did she have in mind? I found out 3 days later. I was at my mama's house, going through her closet and crying over her clothes that still smelled like her perfume when Marcus called. Shanice, I need to talk to you about something important. What is it? Can you come home? I don't want to do this over the phone. I drove home with a knot in my stomach. When I walked in, Marcus was sitting at the kitchen table with papers spread out in front of him. He looked excited. Sit down, he said. I have an opportunity, and I need your help. What kind of opportunity? You remember my friend Derek from college? Well, he's starting a business, and he needs investors. It's a tech startup, and it's going to be huge, Shanice. Huge. He's only offering shares to a select few people, and he's offering me a chance to get in on the ground floor. I stared at him. And I need $100,000 to invest. I know it sounds like a lot, but think about the return. Derek says we could triple our money in a year, maybe less. Marcus, we're getting divorced. Why are you telling me this? He leaned forward, and his voice got softer, more manipulative. Because technically we're still married. And technically your mama's money is still community property until the divorce is final. So I was thinking, what if you gave me $100,000 now, as kind of an advance on my share? Then, when the divorce goes through and we split everything, we can adjust the numbers to account for what you already gave me. There it was, the demand my mama had predicted. He wanted me to give him money right now, before he even knew for sure he'd get anything. I felt anger rising up in me, hot and fierce. But I remembered Attorney Jackson's words, stay calm, document everything. I don't know, Marcus, that's a lot of money. But think about it, Shanice. If this investment pays off, that's more money for both of us to split. It's in your best interest, too. In my best interest. This man really thought I was stupid. Can I think about it? I asked. Sure, but Derek needs an answer by Friday. This opportunity won't last forever. I left the house and drove straight to Attorney Jackson's office. I didn't even call first. I just showed up, and thank God he was there. He asked for the money, I said as soon as I walked into his office. $100,000 for some fake investment opportunity. Attorney Jackson smiled, and it wasn't a kind smile. It was the smile of a lawyer who'd just been handed exactly what he needed. Then it's time. It's time to show him what Gloria did. What do? We call a meeting. You, me, Marcus, and his fancy divorce lawyer. We all sit down together and we lay out exactly how this divorce is going to go. And Shanice? He looked at me seriously. I need you to be ready, because when Marcus finds out the truth, it's not going to be pretty. I'm ready, I said, and I meant it. The meeting was scheduled for the following Monday at Attorney Jackson's office. I told Marcus we were just going to discuss the terms of the divorce and how to split the assets. He seemed excited about it, probably thinking he was about to secure his $1 million. He had no idea what was coming. That Sunday, I went back to church. I prayed harder than I'd prayed in my whole life. I prayed for strength. I prayed for courage. I prayed that my mama could see me, could know that I was finally standing up for myself the way she'd always wanted me to. After church, Keisha grabbed my arm. Girl, what's happening tomorrow? You've got that look in your eye. Everything, I said. Everything is happening tomorrow. Monday morning, I woke up early and put on my best outfit, a navy blue suit my mama had bought me for my 30th birthday. She'd said every woman needed a power suit for important moments. I guess she knew this moment was coming even then. Marcus was already dressed and ready to go. "Big day," he said. "Finally going to get all this sorted out." "Yeah," I said. "Finally." We drove to Attorney Jackson's office separately. When I walked in, Marcus was already there with his lawyer, a slick-looking man in an expensive suit named Richard Barnes. They were both smiling and talking like old friends. Attorney Jackson greeted everyone professionally and invited us all to sit at the conference table. I sat on one side with Attorney Jackson. Marcus and his lawyer sat across from us. "Thank you all for coming," Attorney Jackson began. "We're here today to discuss the dissolution of the marriage between Shanice and Marcus Williams, and to address the division of assets." "Before we start," Marcus's lawyer interrupted, "I want to make sure we're all on the same page about the community property in question. My client has provided me with documentation showing that Mrs. Williams's mother passed away recently and left an estate valued at approximately $1.7 million. As this inheritance was received during the marriage, it is subject to community property laws and should be split equally between both parties." Attorney Jackson nodded calmly. "I'm familiar with your position, Mr. Barnes. However, there are some facts about Mrs. Patterson's estate that your client seems unaware of." Marcus frowned. "What facts?" Attorney Jackson pulled out a folder and opened it slowly. "Mrs. Gloria Patterson, in her wisdom and foresight, established an inheritance protection trust 6 months before her passing. Every asset she left to her daughter was placed into this trust with very specific terms." "So?" Marcus's lawyer said. "Trusts can still be considered community property depending on how they're structured." "Not this one," Attorney Jackson said, and his voice had an edge to it now. "This trust was specifically designed to protect Mrs. Shanice Williams's inheritance from any claims by her spouse in the event of a divorce. It is an irrevocable trust with Mrs. Williams as the sole beneficiary. According to Texas law, and I have the case law right here if you'd like to review it, assets placed in such a trust prior to the knowledge of divorce proceedings are considered separate property and are not subject to division." The room went completely silent. Marcus's face was changing colors. "What are you talking about? We're married. Half of everything is mine." "Not in this case," Attorney Jackson said calmly. He slid a document across the table. "This is the trust document. You'll see that it was executed 6 months ago, long before you filed for divorce. You'll also see that it explicitly excludes any spousal claims to the assets." Marcus's lawyer was speed reading through the document, and I could see his face falling as he realized what it meant. "This can't be legal," Marcus said, his voice rising. "She can't do this. We're married." "It's completely legal," Attorney Jackson said. "And I should mention, Mr. Williams, that there's more. Mrs. Patterson also left a detailed letter explaining her reasons for structuring the trust this way. In it, she expressed concerns about your financial intentions and your treatment of her daughter. While the letter isn't legally binding, it does paint a very clear picture of her state of mind and her wishes." Marcus stood up so fast his chair fell backward. "This is bullshit. That old woman had no right." "Watch your mouth," I said quietly, and everyone looked at me. It was the first time I'd spoken since the meeting started. "Don't you ever disrespect my mama. Not now, not ever." Marcus was breathing hard, his face twisted with rage and disbelief. "You knew about this. You've known about this the whole time. And you let me think—" He stopped himself, realizing what he was admitting. "I let you think what, Marcus?" I asked, my voice steady now. "That you were going to get $1 million? That you could file for divorce 2 days after my mama died and walk away rich? Is that what you thought?" "We're married," he shouted. "I'm entitled to half of everything." "Actually," Attorney Jackson interrupted calmly, "you're entitled to half of the marital assets. The house you live in, which you both own, your cars, your savings accounts. But Mrs. Williams's inheritance is not a marital asset. It never was and never will be." Marcus's lawyer cleared his throat. "We'll challenge this. We'll take it to court. No judge is going to allow one spouse to hide almost $2 million from the other. You're welcome to try, Attorney Jackson said. But I should warn you, I've been practicing family law for 42 years, and I've never lost a case involving an inheritance trust. Not once. And Mr. Barnes? I know you're expensive. I know you charge about $500 an hour. So you might want to explain to your client that challenging this trust will cost him tens of thousands of dollars in legal fees, and he will lose. The law is very clear on this matter. I watched Marcus's face as the reality sank in. He wasn't going to get a penny of my mama's money. All his planning, all his manipulation, all his fake concern and talk about being fair. It was all for nothing. You set me up, he said to me, his voice full of venom. You and that dead bitch of a mother? I don't remember deciding to stand up. I don't remember moving, but suddenly I was on my feet, and my voice was loud and strong. Get out! Get out of this office, get your things out of my house, and get out of my life. You have 24 hours to move out, or I'm calling the police and having you removed. Shanice, he started, but I cut him off. 15 years, Marcus. I gave you 15 years of my life. I loved you. I supported you. I stood by you. And the second you thought there was money involved, you showed me exactly who you really are. My mama knew. She saw through you when I was too blind to see it, and she made sure you could never hurt me the way you planned to. Marcus looked like he wanted to say something else, but his lawyer put a hand on his arm. Let's go, Mr. Barnes said quietly. There's nothing more we can do here. They left, and I stood there shaking, watching them go. Attorney Jackson put a gentle hand on my shoulder. You did good, Shanice. Your mama would be proud. I sat back down and let out a breath I felt like I'd been holding for weeks. What happens now? Now? Now we file a response to his divorce petition. We agree to the divorce, but we make it very clear that the only assets being divided are the true marital assets. The house, the cars, the joint accounts. Your inheritance is not up for discussion. He can fight it if he wants, but he'll lose, and his lawyer knows it. How long will it take? In Texas, there's a mandatory 60-day waiting period for divorce. After that, if he doesn't contest anything else, it should be relatively quick. Maybe 3 to 6 months total. 3 to 6 months. Half a year until I'd be free of Marcus Williams forever. There's something else, Attorney Jackson said. He pulled out another envelope. Your mama left you one more letter. She told me to give it to you after Marcus found out about the trust. She said you'd need it. I took the envelope with shaking hands and opened it. My dearest Shanice, if you're reading this, then Marcus knows the truth, and you've seen the real him. I'm so sorry, baby. I'm sorry you had to go through this pain. I'm sorry you had to learn that the man you loved was never who you thought he was. But I need you to understand something. This is not your fault. You loved with your whole heart, the way I raised you to love. You were loyal and committed, the way I taught you to be. There is nothing wrong with who you are. The problem was always with him. You are free now, baby. Free to start over. Free to find real love. If that's what you want. Free to build whatever life makes you happy. The money I left you isn't just money. It's freedom. It's choices. It's a new beginning. Don't you dare feel guilty for protecting yourself. Don't you dare feel bad about what I did. I would do it 1,000 times over to keep you safe. You are my greatest accomplishment, Shanice. Not the money I saved. Not the house I bought. You. The beautiful, strong, kind woman you've become. That's my legacy. Now go live, baby girl. Really live. Make yourself happy. And know that wherever I am, I'm watching over you, and I'm so, so proud. All my love, forever and always, Mama. I cried right there in Attorney Jackson's office. I cried for my mama, for my marriage, for all the years I'd wasted on a man who never really loved me. But somewhere in those tears, there was also relief. And hope. When I finally stopped crying, I looked up at Attorney Jackson. What did I do to deserve her? You were born to her, he said simply, and Gloria Patterson made it her life's mission to protect you, even from beyond the grave. That's what real love looks like, Shanice. Remember that. I drove home that afternoon with my mama's letter on the passenger seat. When I pulled into the driveway, Marcus's car was already gone. I went inside and found the guest room empty. He'd taken his clothes, his laptop, everything that was his. On the kitchen table, he'd left a note. You'll regret this, Shanice. You and that lawyer think you're so smart, but I know things about you, about your mama. This isn't over. I read the note twice, and then I called Attorney Jackson. He left a threatening note, I told him. Threatening how? I read it to him. There was a pause on the line, and then Attorney Jackson said something that made my blood run cold. Shanice, I need you to be very careful. Men like Marcus don't take rejection well, especially when money's involved. I want you to document everything. Save that note. If he contacts you, don't respond without me present. And if he shows up at your house or your job, you call the police immediately. Do you understand? You think he'd hurt me? I think a man who would file for divorce 2 days after your mother's funeral is capable of anything. Better safe than sorry. That night, I couldn't sleep. I kept thinking about Marcus's note. What did he mean he knew things? What was he planning? I found out the next morning when Keisha called me, her voice frantic. Shanice, turn on your computer. You need to see this right now. What's wrong? Just do it. Go to Facebook. Look at Marcus's page. I opened my laptop with a sense of dread. When I pulled up Marcus's Facebook page, I felt sick. He'd posted a long message, and it had already been shared dozens of times. I need to tell my side of the story, it began. My soon-to-be ex-wife has been spreading lies about me, trying to make me look like the bad guy. The truth is, I asked for a divorce because she's been emotionally abusive for years. She isolated me from my friends and family. She controlled all the money. And now that her mother died and left her a fortune, she's trying to cut me out completely, even though I stood by her through everything. I supported her while she neglected our marriage to take care of her mother. And this is how she repays me. By turning everyone against me and keeping money that legally belongs to both of us. I'm not asking for sympathy. I just want people to know the truth. The comments below were a mix of support for Marcus and questions about me. People I didn't even know were calling me greedy, heartless, a gold digger. A gold digger. In my own marriage. From my own mama's money. I called Attorney Jackson immediately, my hands shaking. He's lying about me online. He's telling everyone I'm abusive and controlling. What do I do? You do nothing, Attorney Jackson said firmly. Do not respond. Do not engage. This is a classic manipulation tactic, Shanice. He's trying to control the narrative, trying to make himself look like the victim. But here's what he doesn't understand. Social media posts don't matter in court. Facts matter. Evidence matters. And we have all the evidence we need. But people believe him. They're sharing his post. They're saying horrible things about me. I know it hurts, baby. But the people who really know you, they know the truth. Everyone else doesn't matter. Let him rant online. It actually helps our case because it shows his character, his willingness to lie and manipulate. I wanted to believe him, but it was hard. By the end of the day, Marcus's post had been shared over 100 times. People from church were messaging me, asking if it was true. My principal at school called to ask if everything was okay. Even some of my own cousins were questioning whether I was being fair to Marcus. The lies were spreading faster than I could stop them. And then, 3 days later, something happened that changed everything. I came home from school to find my front door wide open. I stood frozen on my front porch staring at my open door. My heart was pounding so hard I could hear it in my ears. Everything in me screamed to run, to call the police, to not go inside. But this was my house. My home. I pulled out my phone and dialed 911 with shaking fingers. 911, what's your emergency? Someone broke into my house. The front door is wide open, and I don't know if they're still inside. The dispatcher kept me on the line while she sent officers to my address. She told me to stay outside, to wait in my car where it was safe. I sat in my car with the doors locked, watching my open front door and feeling violated in a way I'd never felt before. The police arrived within 10 minutes. 2 officers went inside while a third stayed with me, and after what felt like forever, one of the officers came back out. "Ma'am, whoever was here is gone now, but you're going to want to come inside and see this." I followed him into my house, and what I saw made me gasp. The place was destroyed. The living room looked like a tornado had hit it. Couch cushions were slashed open, stuffing everywhere. Picture frames were smashed on the floor, glass scattered across the carpet. In the kitchen, cabinets were hanging open, dishes broken in the sink. Someone had spray-painted "greedy bitch" across my refrigerator in red paint. But the worst part was the bedroom. They'd torn through everything. My clothes were pulled from the closet and thrown everywhere. My jewelry box was empty, but they hadn't taken the jewelry. They'd scattered it across the floor and stomped on it. My mama's pearls, the ones she wore on her wedding day, were crushed into pieces. And on the mirror above my dresser, written in that same red spray paint, "You'll pay for this." I couldn't breathe. I couldn't think. I just stood there staring at the destruction of my home, my safe place, the place where I was supposed to feel protected. The officer was talking to me, but I couldn't hear him over the ringing in my ears. Finally, his words broke through. "Ma'am, do you know who might have done this?" "My husband," I whispered. "My soon-to-be ex-husband, Marcus Williams." They took photos of everything. They dusted for fingerprints. They asked me questions about Marcus, where he was staying. Did he still have keys to the house? Had he been violent before? I answered everything in a daze. One of the officers looked at me with concern. "Ma'am, do you have somewhere else you can stay tonight? I don't think you should be here alone." I called Keisha. She showed up 20 minutes later and nearly cried when she saw what Marcus had done. "That psycho," she kept saying. "That absolute psycho. Girl, you're staying with me. Get your things. Actually, don't get your things. I'll buy you whatever you need. Just get out of this house." I grabbed my laptop, my phone charger, and the envelope with my mama's letters. Everything else could wait. That night, lying in Keisha's guest room, I called Attorney Jackson. "He broke into my house," I told him, my voice flat. "He destroyed everything. He spray-painted threats on my walls." There was a long silence on the other end of the line. "Did you call the police?" "Yes, they took a report. They're going to look for him." "Good. Shanice, I need you to listen to me very carefully. This is good for our case. I know that sounds terrible, but it's true. Marcus just handed us exactly what we need. This isn't just a divorce anymore. This is criminal behavior, breaking and entering, destruction of property, potentially criminal threats. Any judge who sees this will know exactly what kind of man he is." "I don't care about the case," I said. And I meant it. I just want to feel safe again. "I know, honey. And you will. I promise you. We're going to make sure he can never hurt you again." The next morning, I had to go back to the house with the police to document everything in daylight. When I pulled up, there was a crowd of people in my front yard. At first, I panicked, thinking it was reporters or something. But then I recognized faces. Sister Martha from church, Brother Thompson, Pastor Williams, even some of my neighbors who I barely knew. Sister Martha rushed over to me as soon as I got out of the car. "Baby, we heard what happened. Nobody should have to face this alone. We're here to help you clean up." I started crying right there in my driveway. "You don't have to do this." "Yes, we do," Pastor Williams said firmly. "This is what family does. This is what church family does. You're Gloria's daughter, and that means you're our daughter too." For the next 6 hours, these people, my community, helped me put my house back together. They scrubbed paint off my walls and refrigerator. They swept up broken glass. They helped me sort through what could be saved and what had to be thrown away. Sister Jenkins even brought over food because you can't clean on an empty stomach. While we worked, they shared stories about my mama, about how she'd helped each of them at some point. Brother Thompson talked about how Mama had lent him money years ago when he was about to lose his house and never asked for it back. Sister Martha told me about how Mama had sat with her in the hospital when her daughter was sick, praying for hours. "Your Mama was special," Pastor Williams said, "and she raised you to be special too. Don't you let Marcus Williams make you forget that." By evening, my house looked almost normal again. There were still some paint stains on the walls and some things that couldn't be replaced. But it was livable. It was home again. That night, the police called. They'd found Marcus at his brother's house. He'd been arrested and charged with breaking and entering, vandalism, and making terroristic threats. He was in jail, and his bond hearing was scheduled for the next day. "Do you want to be there?" the detective asked. "You have the right to make a victim impact statement if you want." I thought about it. Part of me never wanted to see Marcus again, but another part of me needed to look him in the eye and let him know he didn't break me. "I'll be there," I said. Attorney Jackson went with me to the bond hearing. We sat in the courtroom, and I watched as they brought Marcus in wearing an orange jumpsuit and handcuffs. He looked terrible. His eyes were red, his face was unshaven, and he looked smaller somehow, less threatening. When he saw me, he tried to smile. Actually smiled, like we were still friends. Like he hadn't just destroyed my home and threatened me. The prosecutor presented evidence of what Marcus had done. Photos of my house. Copies of the threatening messages. Character statements from neighbors who'd seen Marcus's car in my driveway that afternoon. Marcus's lawyer tried to argue that it was just a domestic dispute that got out of hand, that Marcus was under extreme emotional stress because of the divorce, that he wasn't a danger to anyone. Then it was my turn to speak. I stood up and my legs were shaking, but when I opened my mouth, my voice was steady. "Your Honor, I was married to Marcus Williams for 15 years. I loved him. I trusted him. I thought we were building a life together. But 2 days after my mother's funeral, he filed for divorce. And when he found out he wasn't going to get the inheritance he thought he was entitled to, he showed me who he really was. He posted lies about me on social media. He tried to turn everyone against me. And then he broke into my home and destroyed it. He destroyed things that can never be replaced, including jewelry that belonged to my late mother. He spray-painted threats on my walls. He wanted me to be scared. He wanted me to feel violated and unsafe in my own home. I looked directly at Marcus. But what he doesn't understand is that my mama prepared me for this. She saw through him years ago, and she made sure I'd be protected. And now I see through him too. He's not scary. He's just sad. He's a man who thought he could manipulate and threaten his way to money he never earned and doesn't deserve. I turned back to the judge. "Your Honor, I don't want this man anywhere near me. I don't want him near my home. I want a restraining order, and I want whatever punishment the law allows for what he did." The judge looked at Marcus with disgust. "Mr. Williams, I've been on this bench for 20 years, and I've seen a lot of bad behavior. But what you did here is particularly cowardly. Breaking into your estranged wife's home and destroying her property because you're angry about a divorce? That's not the behavior of a man. That's the behavior of a child throwing a tantrum." She set his bond at $50,000 and granted me a temporary restraining order. Marcus had to stay at least 500 feet away from me, my home, and my workplace at all times. As they led him away, he looked back at me one more time. But this time, he wasn't smiling. He was crying. I felt nothing. Over the next 3 months, the divorce proceedings moved forward. Marcus tried to fight the trust, just like his lawyer warned he would. But Attorney Jackson was right. The trust was ironclad. Every judge who looked at it came to the same conclusion. The inheritance was mine, and mine alone. Marcus's criminal case was handled separately. He ended up pleading guilty to the vandalism and breaking and entering charges in exchange for probation and having to pay restitution for the damage to my house. The prosecutor told me he was lucky he didn't get jail time. During those months, something interesting started happening. People who'd believed Marcus's lies on social media started reaching out to apologize. They'd heard about what he did to my house. They'd seen him in court. They realized he'd been lying all along. Some of them I forgave. Others I didn't. Because the truth is, the people who really knew me, who really loved me, they never doubted me in the first place. The divorce was finalized on a Tuesday in late January, almost exactly 4 months after my mama died. Attorney Jackson and I went to court, but Marcus wasn't even there. His lawyer said he couldn't afford to keep fighting and had agreed to all our terms. The final settlement was simple. We sold the house and split the proceeds equally. He kept his car, I kept mine. We divided our small joint savings account. And my inheritance, all $1.7 million of it, remained mine and mine alone, exactly as my mama intended. When the judge signed the final papers, I felt a weight lift off my shoulders that I didn't even know I'd been carrying. "You're free," Attorney Jackson said with a smile. "How does it feel?" "It feels like I can breathe again," I told him. That Sunday, I went to church and felt truly joyful for the first time in months. The choir sang Amazing Grace, and I sang along with tears streaming down my face. After the service, Pastor Williams called me up to the front. "Church family," he said, "I want us to take a moment to celebrate Sister Shanice. Many of you know she's been through a difficult time. But she stood strong. She stood on her faith. And she came through the fire refined. Let's give her a hand." The whole church erupted in applause and shouts of "Amen" and "Yes, Lord." People came up to hug me, to tell me they were proud of me, to welcome me into this next chapter of my life. Sister Martha grabbed my hands and looked me in the eye. "Your mama is so proud of you right now. You know that, don't you?" I nodded, too choked up to speak. After church, I drove to the cemetery where Mama was buried. I sat by her grave and told her everything that had happened. "You were right, Mama," I said. "You were right about everything. And you saved me. You saved me from making the biggest mistake of my life. I don't know how you knew, but I'm so grateful you did." The wind picked up, rustling the leaves on the trees around me, and for just a moment, I could have sworn I smelled her perfume. "I'm going to be okay," I told her. "I'm going to use this gift you gave me to build something beautiful. I'm going to travel. I'm going to go back to school and get my master's degree like I always wanted. I'm going to live, Mama, really live, just like you told me to." I stayed there for an hour, just talking to her, feeling her presence. When I finally left, I felt lighter than I had in years. Over the next few months, I started building my new life. I used some of the inheritance to completely renovate my mama's house. I couldn't bring myself to sell it, so I turned it into something beautiful, a place where I could stay when I needed to feel close to her. I enrolled in graduate school to get my master's in education, something I'd always wanted to do but never had the time or money for. Now I had both. I started traveling, first just small trips, a weekend in New Orleans, a few days in Atlanta, but then I got braver. I went to Ghana for 2 weeks and traced part of my family's ancestry. I went to Paris, something Mama had always dreamed of, but never got to do. I carried her picture with me everywhere I went, and slowly, month by month, I healed. One day, about a year after the divorce was finalized, Keisha and I were having lunch when she asked me something I'd been thinking about a lot. "Do you regret it? Any of it? The years with Marcus, I mean." I thought about it carefully. "No," I said finally. "I don't regret loving him. I don't regret trying to make it work, because that's who I am. That's who Mama raised me to be, someone who loves fully and tries hard. What I regret is not seeing the signs sooner, not trusting my Mama's instincts, but even that taught me something valuable." "What's that?" "That sometimes the people who love us see things we can't see, and we should trust them. My Mama knew Marcus wasn't right for me, and she loved me enough to protect me even after she was gone. That's the kind of love I want to focus on now. Not the fake love Marcus gave me, but the real, deep, sacrificial love my Mama showed me." Keisha raised her glass. "To Gloria Patterson." the smartest woman we ever knew." "To Mama," I agreed, clinking my glass against hers. Later that month, I did something I'd been thinking about for a while. I created a scholarship fund in my mama's name. Every year it would provide financial assistance to a student from our community who wanted to go to college but couldn't afford it. Just like Mama had worked multiple jobs to send me to school, now her legacy would help other young people achieve their dreams. At the first scholarship ceremony, I stood in front of the church community and shared my story. Not the whole story. Some parts were too painful, too personal. But I talked about how my mama had protected me, how she'd seen danger I couldn't see, how she'd used her wisdom and foresight to ensure I'd be taken care of. "My mama taught me that real love protects," I said. "It doesn't control, it doesn't manipulate, it doesn't come with conditions. It just protects." And when you have that kind of love in your life, when you know someone loved you enough to think about your future, even when they knew they wouldn't be there to see it, that's everything. That's the kind of love worth living for. There wasn't a dry eye in the church. 2 years after Mama died, I was finally, truly happy. Not the fake happiness I'd had with Marcus, where I was always trying to convince myself everything was fine, but real, deep happiness. The kind that comes from knowing yourself, from being free, from living authentically. I'd built a life I was proud of. I had my career, which I loved more than ever. I had my education, I had my community, I had my independence, and most importantly, I had peace. Sometimes people ask me if I've started dating again, if I'm ready to find love. I always smile and tell them the truth. I'm not looking for it, but I'm not running from it either. If it comes, it comes. And if it doesn't, I'm perfectly happy on my own. Because that's what my mama's gift really gave me. Not just financial security, although that was part of it, but freedom. The freedom to choose my own path. The freedom to say no to things that don't serve me. The freedom to wait for real love instead of settling for fake love. The freedom to be happy on my own terms. Marcus tried to contact me a few times over the years, first through mutual acquaintances, then through email. He always wanted to apologize or explain or make things right. I never responded. There was nothing he could say that I needed to hear. That chapter of my life was closed. I heard through the grapevine that he eventually moved to another state, got remarried quickly to someone else. I hoped, for her sake, that he'd learned something from what happened with us. But honestly, I didn't think about him much. He'd taken up enough space in my life and in my head. On the 3rd anniversary of Mama's death, I went to her grave like I did every year. This time I brought flowers and a letter I'd written her. "Dear Mama," I read aloud, "it's been 3 years since you left me, and I want you to know I'm okay. Actually, I'm more than okay. I'm thriving. I'm living the life you wanted for me. I'm free, I'm happy, and I'm using everything you gave me, not just the money, but the lessons, the strength, the wisdom, to build something beautiful. You outsmarted Marcus, Mama. You saw through him when I was too blinded by love to see the truth. And you made sure that even from beyond the grave, you could protect me. That's the most powerful act of love I've ever known. I think about you every single day. I see you in the students I teach. I feel you when I'm making decisions about my life. I hear your voice telling me to stand tall, to be strong, to never let anyone make me feel small. Thank you, Mama. Thank you for everything you sacrificed. Thank you for every extra shift you worked, every dream you put aside, every hard choice you made so I could have better. Thank you for loving me enough to see danger I couldn't see. Thank you for protecting me one last time. I promise I'm making you proud. I promise I'm living, really living, just like you told me to. And I promise that every good thing I do in this world, every person I help, every life I touch, it's all in your honor. I love you forever, Mama. Rest well. Your daughter is going to be just fine." I sat there by her grave as the sun set, feeling her presence, feeling her love, feeling her pride. And for the first time since she died, I felt complete peace. Because my mama had given me the greatest gift a parent can give a child. Not money, although that helped, but wisdom, protection, freedom, and unconditional love that extended beyond the grave. Marcus thought he hit the jackpot when Mama died. He thought he was about to get rich off her life's work. But what he didn't understand, what he could never understand, was that my mama was 10 steps ahead of him the whole time. She knew exactly who he was, and she made sure he'd never benefit from her hard work or her love for me. That's the real story here. Not about a divorce or an inheritance or revenge, but about a mother's love that was so powerful, so intentional, so protective that it reached across the divide between life and death to save her daughter one more time. And now I get to live every day knowing that I was loved like that I am loved like that still. That my mama's love didn't end when her life did. It just transformed into protection, into freedom, into the beautiful life I'm living now. Some people might say what Mama did was harsh or unfair. But those people have never loved someone enough to protect them from their own blind spots. They've never cared enough to look ahead and plan for dangers their loved one can't see yet. My mama did. And because she did, I'm free. I drove home from the cemetery that evening with a full heart. When I pulled into the driveway of my home, truly my home now, not a home I shared with someone who didn't value me, I felt grateful. Grateful for the past, which taught me strength. Grateful for the present, which gave me peace. And grateful for the future, which was mine to write however I chose. Inside, I looked at the framed photo of Mama that sat on my mantel. She was smiling, that beautiful smile that lit up every room she entered. "We did it, Mama," I whispered. "We won." And somewhere, I knew she was smiling even brighter, proud of the woman I'd become. Proud that her love, her wisdom, and her protection had given me the freedom to become exactly who I was meant to be. Free, strong, happy. And finally home. Thanks for listening. Don't forget to subscribe and feel free to share your story in the comments. Your voice matters.